Good day, monkeys. I'm Eddie Braverman, that's Midas Mulligan Magoo, and this is episode 24 of Not Safe for Work on WallStreetOasis.com. This week we're covering the arrest of Dominique Strauss-Kahn, the price of coffee, and the near-term fate of the euro, so let's get rolling. Dominique Strauss-Kahn, hereafter referred to as DSK, got his ass hauled off an Air France flight to Paris this morning, or yesterday, last evening, after allegedly sodomizing a maid at the Sofitel on 44th Street. DSK is the head of the IMF and is widely regarded as the frontrunner among the candidates to unseat French President Nicolas Sarkozy in the next year's election. Or I should say he was considered the frontrunner until this morning. Of course, there's the presumption of innocence, but in fairness, most innocent guys don't leave their wallets and cell phones behind in a mad dash to get to the airport and off of U.S. soil. Looks like DSK was taking a page out of Roman Polanski's playbook. Didn't Al Gore allegedly pull some shit like this? What's with these high-level ass bags? Does this guy
Gore?
think? Huh? Yeah, I mean something about a masseuse. I don't know. Does this guy think that since he heads up the organization that rapes entire nations, that no one's going to notice a Puerto Rican maid here or there? I mean, what do you think, dude?
Well, I think from now on we should just call him, instead of a DSK, as a LMAO asshole. But this is what happens when you put a socialist in charge of any treasury, man. Since all the money is ours, everything becomes ours, including the private parts of the help. Sorry, DSK, she wasn't DTF, and because of it, your chances of unseating Sarkozy are DOA. Speaking of which, Sarkozy is a man who knows how to carry off the Lothario acted style. Our buddy should have learned something. And yes, Al Gore did indeed pull something like this, but I think we in America are far better at understanding when it is time to step away and go preach the values of voodoo sciences and hokey religions. Not that I'm talking about anybody in particular.
You know, it's a good point, man. You know, a lot of people think of the socialist boogeyman and think, oh my God, it's the end of the world, we got a socialist. You don't ever have to sweat the socialists, man. They do enough stupid shit to bring themselves down. You just have to give them enough time.
Hey, we'll see about that at the next election. So, if you're to run an organization as important as the IMF, you should be tested for sexually predatory tendencies before appointment, even though predatory lending tendencies are still very much encouraged. Perhaps the two are mutually exclusive, though I highly doubt it.
Nobody'd ever get appointed, dude. They're all a bunch of feudal lords who, who think they have a right to rape the peasantry, and that's what they do for a living all day. So they figure, what the hell's another maid?
Basically. I mean, the message really has got to be sent here, though. I mean, these guys can't live by a different set of rules, and I certainly hope this turtle will be winding up somewhere in Bordeaux picking grapes, even though that's highly unlikely. But his fall from power is definitely enough good news for me. And, they might cut down on all those socialist rallies that cramp your dog walking routine on a daily basis. So let's hope for that.
Yeah, well, there's got to be a big party in the Élysée Palace today, man. I know Sarkozy's got to be. He had a great morning this morning.
Indeed.
But you wrote a post about the high cost of coffee, moving right along, at Starbucks and other gourmet outlets a couple weeks ago. And I commented that it was time for the annual coffee short trade. Well, just to give the guys a heads up as to how the trade is going, I shorted Joe, J-O, the ETF for coffee, at 77.60 on April 26th, and it closed at 70.49 on Friday. So I'm up a little over $7 a share in 2 weeks. I'm looking to close the position at 65 a share or by the end of the month, whichever comes first. At $65, it's a 16% return in a month, which is far less than I would have made shorting the futures, but, a much easier trade to sleep at night. So it looks like you called the top in the coffee market, at least in the near term, and the goofy coffee short trade is held up for yet another year. So I'm dying to hear your next pick for something that's topped out so I can short it. What do you got?
Well, absolutely not a goddamn thing unless you get me about 10 digits worth of capital, which is totally comfortable with their fund manager being a guy who has sexual fantasies about blowing up government institutions set to 19th century classical overtures. But all that kind of bullshit aside, I'd look in the corn as possibly having topped out for a while. All these, huge fears and all this fear-mongering about a global food shortage will certainly lead some non-American governments to ramp up their ag production by any means necessary. And I wouldn't be shocked if our boys in Washington didn't add a subsidy or two to the mix. Considering how dominant America is in terms of corn production, I can think of, a brick country or two that definitely doesn't need an increase in corn prices, which has been going on, as you know, steadily for better part of the last decade. Also, oil prices have to be coming down a little bit, and combined with a strong dollar as well, it's a possibility that the corn spike is going to slow down a little bit here. That accompanied with our next topic obviously makes me think it's a sell. That having been said, anything related to food is going to be on the rise in coming years and decades.
Yeah, I mean, that makes me nervous to short the grains, man. I agree with you, don't get me wrong, but just seems like there's a lot of other hokey shit out there that deserves my short selling than something that's got some fundamentals behind it.
I can always give you the good stuff offline, you know what I mean? Until we're getting too many viewers for just to give up the good stuff like that. But seriously though, I was gonna add, if you're taking any sort of shorting approach when it comes to any commodity really these days, you definitely want to be taking the options route and giving yourself some very, very religiously clear entry and exit points that you can stick to. But anybody who has their timing and their nerves of steel, not Neils of steel, and has the discipline, will make some bloody murder in corn in the next couple of years. So it's just something to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of things that are dropping and those that are going up, the dollar's firming up nicely against the euro right now, thanks to the increasing turmoil in Greece. And I can only believe that DSK's little transgression this weekend is going to continue that trend. It's hard to believe that it was just a year ago that they were bailed out, and already everything is completely fucked. I'm thinking we could see the euro drop to 125 or so against the dollar in the near term. It's currently around 141, so that's a nice move for anyone who thinks I'm right. I'm already fully invested living over here, so I'm rooting for the greenback. But I can't help feeling like a spectator at the Special Olympics when I'm cheering for the dollar against the euro. Hang on one sec. I think we lost video there for a minute, but I think we're back. Both currencies are horribly mismanaged, and it really comes down to which currency sucks the least at the moment. But since I'm paid more often in dollars than I am in euros, I'll take any dollar appreciation I can get. What do you think?
Oh man, that's a great analogy. I feel like I'm watching Jimmy and Timmy, going at it again.
Jimmy!
No, but seriously, between the two of us, we've probably laid more fertilizer on the dollar than there is in all the Midwest. So no need to elaborate on that subject. But there is, however, far more wrong with the euro than simply Greece. But let's just stick to that for now. Since Greece is on such the long end of a short rope, they really have no collateral left other than those lovely little islands, all of which would in turn make lovely little military bases for a certain wannabe power that I won't name. So this mess is no longer just financial. It's gone completely geopolitical, and it's way, way beyond just the bailout. So as I said I think it was their second episode, I have absolutely zero faith in the euro, and about a millennium worth of reasons why I don't believe in a unified Europe lasting for very long. So long term, you're either going to see the euro pop completely, or we're going to see some sort of Deutsch euro for the stronger economy and some Eastern, Central, Southern feta cheese and espresso based currency for the rest of the old broad. In the short term, you're absolutely right. The dollar has nowhere to go but up. Though I really wouldn't be shocked to see it go as high as $1.10, which is, I think, as close as, I think you correct me if I'm wrong, I think 103 was the best ratio ever when the euro first came out.
Before they actually coined it, when they had just converted over in the ether, the dollar was actually stronger than the euro. But yeah, by the time they actually coined it, it was around 102, 103, and I don't know that I've seen it any lower than 120, 123 or so since I've lived here, which is late 2008. So, it's been strong against the dollar for a while.
I don't recall in my life, and I wasn't paying as close attention back then, but I don't recall anything better than 115. So, this is pretty drastic to say $1.10. But, I base it really not on anything much more than when the dollar bulls are bullish, they're, Pamplonian, they're out of control.
Right.
So with euro on shaky legs, I definitely see we'll see a nice little flag for the dollar, and it could actually stretch. But I think 125, 120, somewhere in there is actually pretty reasonable considering how much trouble the euro is having right now.
Yeah, I think we could see that pretty quick too, actually.
But that said, guys, get it straight. The dollar still sucks, you know. So, you know, when choosing between an ugly bride and a cute chick with gangrenous body parts, investors will always prefer to marry the problem that they can throw a bag over the head of and simply cover their eyes. So that's all for me for this week. As you can see, guys, I'm in the dark about all this.
Yeah, I was going to mention something about that. I don't have any books this week, but I am working on one for next week that I think you guys might enjoy. And believe it or not, it's fiction. So it's finance fiction, and it's brand new. But I'm not sold yet. I'm not far enough into it to recommend it. So let me finish it this week, and I'll let you guys know next week whether you should buy it or not.
This wouldn't be an autobiography by any chance, would it?
It would not. No, it's actually a financial terrorism thriller kind of deal. So.
Ooh.
I'll let you know if it's any good. Maybe if it's any good, I'll even get the author to come do an interview for us. But in any case, that's all I've got this week. You guys keep your powder dry and your heads low, and we will see you next week on WallStreetOasis.com.
Easy, guys.